What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Elevation here with another episode of the JBP Elevated, where we speak on the Joe Budden podcast and all of his co-hosts on and off the pod.
Well, I finished the episode, and I see what everyone is talking about in the comments. They was even talking about it on yesterday's video. Melyssa gets mad. How come you didn't speak on Melyssa? Alright, so I checked it out. Watched the whole episode in its entirety. I saw when the sleepers came on, Melyssa was frustrated over something. Apparently there was an edit I didn't catch on to, but when it came to that sleepers and Joe saying Ish was the sleeper king, that rubbed Melyssa the wrong way. And I wanted to come on here and bash her back in and all that shit, but we all were in agreement when Melyssa first appeared on JBP. We were all in agreement that, man, Melyssa would be a great addition to this podcast. And we've been saying that for a couple of years now. She's been on the podcast and we haven't had those same sentiments since. So I went back to the initial episode. It's on Patreon and it's on YouTube, like 2 years ago. I get it. I see where the shift happened. So I kind of wanted to speak on the shift. First though, Mel, it is kind of odd that when you get upset, your energy shifts. But I don't want to focus on that because as much as we pointed out with Melyssa, I don't see us pointing it out with the same fervor on Ish, on Ice, on Flip, and on Joe. They all have mood swings. Flip becomes mute when he's pissed off. He'll leave the set when he's pissed off. Ice, you see his shift change. He becomes aggravated, aggressive, all of the above, and he'll let it be known that he has had a shift in his sensitivity or his emotions. Ish, we all see Ish shut down damn near every other episode. He's been getting better this year though, I give him that for sure. But we all know how Ish is when he shuts down, and Joe will start being belligerent. So they all have their triggers and they all shut down differently. We need to stop just pointing the finger at Melyssa. But, like I said, I went back to the initial episode where she first appeared. And I spotted a couple of differences. And I kind of wanted to speak on that to show why the shift happened. Melyssa, this first one's for you. You did exactly what Danny's been saying for a minute, what I have said for a minute, what Joe tells you still to this day. On your first episode, you need to go back and listen to it. You were talking about your history in the music biz, doing the videos. You were talking about the inception of Napster, music budgets, like the whole nine, everything that we initially started listening to the JBP for, you were alluding to on your first episode. That's really all I have for Melyssa. The rest is to the rest of the cast. Ish, you looked younger. They all looked hella younger back then too. More spry. Ish, you were engaging the most with Melyssa. That's what got me. That's what intrigued me initially. The dynamic you had with Melyssa. I don't know if Joe coming up with all the narratives goofed it up. I don't know if your lady at the house told you stop fucking with her. She saw the chemistry between y'all initially. I don't know if you got in your own head and started saying, I can't make it seem like we have chemistry, and you pulled back. But that dynamic was the first thing I noticed that is no longer here. And the fact that y'all seemingly are at odds now is a distraction. One that we speak on, but I didn't fully understand it until I watched this episode. Joe wasn't doing all the sexual innuendo shit. He wasn't doing all the advances that he seemingly does now. He was genuinely talking to you like a friend / sister that episode. Y'all gave Mel ISO room. She was more open to speak about her past because y'all gave her the floor to speak. Now whenever she says anything, y'all just go straight into clown mode. And I'm not saying y'all didn't clown on the first episode, except it seemed like y'all were laughing in unison. Y'all weren't all just laughing at her. There's a difference. And you can spot it. The addition of Flip. Flip was not on this first episode. Melyssa was in her bag. She was comfortable. Flip is the one that when they signed together, he's the one always trying to include Mel. He's the one always throwing Melyssa's personal business on the line. He's the one always trying to be touchy-feely with Melyssa outside of Joe. It's got to be an uncomfortable work environment. I know as men it's hard for us to see these things, but we got to view ourselves, or we got to view it from the perspective of a woman. When we're approaching the only woman on the pod, how uncomfortable it may be that everywhere you go, or every time you try to go on a diatribe or a soliloquy, they interrupt you, or they throw sexual innuendos your way, or they call you stupid, or they say everything that you're well versed in is a waste of time. They get mad at Mel for the things that she's knowledgeable in. How do you know every actor and actress's name? I do movies, nigga. And speaking of which, she has actually upped her profile a lot since she's been on the JBP. She may not be flaunting it, but she's gotten sponsorships. She's done multiple movies at this point. We were so fixated on the podcast, we weren't looking at everything else that she was reviving as a result of being on the JBP. And yes, every time you ask me, I'm going to say, I love it here. You pay me, and I don't even really have to speak. And now, I have dedicated segments of when I get up and when I come back to the set. Those little segments alone can get me the viewership I need to continue ascending in my career. Because at the end of the day, Melyssa is looking at this as a career move. My career isn't the JBP. The JBP is helping my career. There's a difference. She doesn't see the JBP as the end-all be-all. And she hasn't. And we've been clowning on her, not realizing all the moves she has in place. All of them. Yeah, I'm sponsored by a weed soda company, weed plant company, the whole nine. NBA players backing me. Yep. You saw me get the same pull. If Melyssa was to get into this bag, which I believe she should if she's not trying to talk about her past all the time, you saw me get Jadakiss. I have a lot of relationships in this industry. What happens if I, out the blue on my podcast, was able to get Leonardo DiCaprio? I could shift a whole new lane. But it's because of the exposure I got in the JBP that I'm able to continue ascending. But I get why Melyssa's all aggravated all the time. And this, I'm not even trying to cop for Melyssa. I promise you, I'm really not that guy. If you listen to any of my videos in the past, you know how abrasive I could be towards women. But like I said, we gotta start looking at this perspective from the view of a woman. How would you feel? And I know, even as a guy, how would you feel if you worked in an environment full of women, and let's just say you weren't attracted to these women, or at least not all of them, but they are all sending you advances constantly, or they're all cutting you off every time you speak? That's going to make you feel a certain type of way. So, as much as I want to put stock into her getting upset because Joe is upset that she put the Drake caption as her caption, or the Drake lyric as her caption on her bio, I don't know what to tell y'all about that. Joe, I just work for you, man. I just work for you. You've said Cameron's name multiple times, and you know I have beef with that nigga. I don't know. I'm playing into it. I felt like I was playing into it. But as far as the viewer is concerned, us as the audience, it still makes for bad visuals, still makes for a bad audio listen when you can hear the shift or change the octave in her voice. You could tell she's frustrated. But we got to call a spade a spade. They all do this. I do think it's effed up, though, that multiple things were spotted. I'm not going to say our issues or problems are going to cause a demise. Just multiple things were spotted that can be considered hate on a day of celebration. That's it. But as always, I appreciate y'all, man. We're going to keep running it up. Promise I'm going to get better at my drops. But until I see y'all, make sure y'all engage in the comment section. Leave a comment. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the page if you haven't already. I appreciate those who have been here from day one. I appreciate those who just came today. We're going to keep it moving. Make sure if y'all moving outside today, y'all stay safe. Peace.